Just have to apologize in advance because for about a week now, since having someone coming to fix my computer, I've not been able to get the audio to work properly um, on this at all. So that's going to affect your ability to understand, and I'm not going to start this again. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, I've got the everything wound up to the maximum on the in the settings on my computer, and this is only one of three methods that I've been using up till now to record stuff. Two out of those three methods have failed. I'm getting someone in on Monday, so hopefully everything can be restored. I had a geek out the other day because before I went away, I was having all sorts of problems, um, including not being able to export files, including these QuickTime files. And then I got a geek in because when I came back, everything was sort of working fine. Got a geek to come in, and of course, I'd made the appointment, so I thought, well, I better just go for it. And since he's been um, two out of the three ways that I use to record these videos is not working. Either I don't get sound at all, or it starts recording straight away. And I've not changed any settings or anything. It's just all happened quite spontaneously. So it remains to be seen whether I'm going to be able to work with this file or not. My guess is on a day when I'm reasonably together that it's probably not. And anyway, I really want to talk about what's happening in the Middle East, um, but I just want to prelude this with a few comments of my own because I woke up this morning on Facebook and I posted just this little thing as I do, and it was questioning the Californian fires, and it showed all the anomalies, and then this guy who has wormed his way in as a Facebook friend who I don't know from a bar of soap came back and sort of said, "Oh, conspiracy theory." Blah, 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 blah. He didn't have, of course, he didn't have a skerrick of proof of his own, and then I put some other meme up, and he said, "Oh, Robin, don't you believe in anything?" Well, this in part is my response to Rick of either Oregon or Washington State. So I'll give you an example of something to be believed in or not believed in. So this is the Nicene Creed. We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and of all that is seen and unseen. We believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, eternally begotten of the Father, etc., etc. Well, that is an example of something that is to be believed in, because it's a matter of faith. Either you believe in it or you don't. And of course, if you do believe in it, it is very real. But my answer to anything else in the human realm, no, I do not believe in um, anything at all. There are certain things that I see, and it's in line with other things. Um, so I can say I can believe this to be true, but that's as far as I will go with my beliefs, especially in the face of something that I do believe in: abrupt climate change. Um, and as a result of all the lies that I've seen about the reporting, the more evidence that I've seen that there are other things to be that come into play here, the less I believe in anything that comes down from the authorities, and I think anyone who does is an absolute idiot. But of course, they can also be a product just of the modern corporate state, which is, in my day, I was probably one of the last living examples of going through a university where people were actually taught to how to how to formulate their thoughts and put them together. And now, of course, people are so dumbed down that all they have is their beliefs, the things that they believe in and the things that they don't. And that's, of course, what they're encouraged to. Um, so I reject the kind of right wing conservative model as much as I do the liberal libtard model as well. Uh, but most of my criticism um, is directed towards the liberal model because I suppose that's where I've come from, not from the other side, and so that's what I'm responding to. So um, yeah, I mean I could say more about it, but let's just get on to the real stuff.
يواجه الأمريكي لن يحميكم. الأمريكي لن يضعكم إذا لم تحضروا أنفسكم للدفاع عن بلدكم وللمقاومة فلن تكونوا سوى عبيد عند العثماني. لن يحميكم سوى دولتكم. لن يدافع عنكم.
So I'm just sharing with you what I think that you're not going to get from the mass media, certainly from the American media or the majority. So this is Syrian girl. Some of the Syrian people are quite justifiably upset about the Kurds because they decided to uh, go with the Americans to bring about their greater dream of a Kurdish state rather than going with the Russians and the Damascus government when they could have had full autonomy. It was offered to them, as I understand it, and I don't sort of know all the details. So now, of course, they're screaming because they've been invaded by the Turks. Yeah, so Syrian girl says Kurds announced they're going to release ISIS prisoners to get back at Trump, and then conveniently the Kurds announced that ISIS escaped due to Turkish shelling. Coincidence, or is this their way of trying to keep the US in Syria no matter what the cost? So uh, she points to this. I'm not going to go to the article. Kurdish fighters discuss releasing almost 3,200 ISIS prisoners, upset by President Trump's order to withdraw troops and expecting a Turkish attack. The Syrian Democratic Forces are considering freeing ISIS. So, and then there's this report from the Independent that came out earlier on. Oh God. Yeah. So ISIS militants break out of prison in Syria after bombing by Turkey. Escape comes after Trump cleared way for Erdogan to launch the offence on the Kurds. So 5 ISIS militants have broken out of a prison in northern Syria after Turkish shelling nearby. A spokesman in the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces has said. The detainees escaped from a prison in Kamishli city, Marwan Kamashlo said. Meanwhile, women affiliated with ISIS attacked security officers with sticks and stones during unrest at a camp in the region where Turkey has launched attacks. The unrest at Al Hol camp started in the foreigner section and involved more people than previous incidents at the camp. The ISIS women rose against the internal security forces at Al Hol. They set ablaze tents and attacked the administrative and Turkey officers there with sticks and stones. Yeah, there's lots more I could probably say on this. There are lots more reports that may be more um, kind of reliable uh, than this. I don't know, but I'm just pointing your attention uh, towards this. What's this? I'm just going to go through a few um, headlines just of the last couple of days, not in any particular order. I can't really do it in any particular order. Uh, anyway, this is from today as a headline from Common Dreams. Less than 24 hours after saying time to bring him home, Trump orders 1,800 US troops to Saudi Arabia. Remember when Donald Trump tweeted he was trying to end the endless wars? That was yesterday. So less than a day after President Donald Trump bragged to supporters at a campaign-style rally in Minnesota on Thursday, he was working hard to bring the US soldiers home from foreign wars. The Pentagon announced Friday that 1,800 troops and advanced weapon systems had been ordered to Saudi Arabia, a move critics decried as both hypocritical and deeply dangerous. Well, all of this is true, uh, but there's something very, very disingenuous about this because we'll go back to December last year. Trump obviously made noises about removing troops then, and he was every time he tries to do the right thing, uh, done in a very extremely kind of clumsy way, he gets defeated by the deep state. And if you think that that is unique to Donald Trump, think again because people kind of have one, you know, amnesia about this. Because I remember very well under under Obama, he would send John Kerry to talk to Sergei Lavrov. They would they would meet and they would make some sort of arrangement and they would sign an agreement, and then he wouldn't even be. He'd still be on the plane back to Washington when some element in the deep state had completely derailed the agreement that he just signed with Lavrov I think. By attacking Russian soldiers or something along those lines. So it completely derailed the agreement that had been made because there are different factions between the State Department, the Pentagon, the Navy, the Army, the White House, you name it, and they don't agree with each other. And there's not really a foreign policy. There wasn't a foreign policy under Obama. There isn't a foreign policy under um, under Trump, and kind of all the terrible things that one can say about Trump, he seems to have the right kind of inclinations as far as I can tell, uh, but he always walks them back because I have to conclude that that's because he's being forced to do so. So let's just go through a few of these things. So uh, we've got this. This is from today as well. ISIS has a plan to bust out 70,000 supporters from Kurdish jails now that the US has abandoned the area to the Turkish military. Well, there's something really strange about that because let's just go to this. Yesterday, US troops near Kobani shelled from Turkish positions. No injuries sustained. Pentagon. Well, I have to ask the question, if the American troops are out, how come they were shelled? Um, I thought they'd already left. So did everyone else. But of course, this report comes through and nobody asks any questions. And then all the headlines, oh God, I can't find it, but it was really interesting that I remembered this from yesterday. As I was sort of waking up, this was coming through on Twitter that Turkey is shelling this French. And remember that the French are illegally in Syria, military base near Kobani right now. And approximately 70 uh, uh, French special forces are based there. And then there were looks as though 2 injured French soldiers were evacuated by helicopters after this airstrike. So that became, the headlines then became about the US forces. No mention was made about the French. Well, you'd have to ask the question, was that fake news? Were the French not attacked? Or I would count it as far more likely that nobody in the elite wants us to know that the French have special forces in Kobani. So let's just go back to where we were before. This is from today. Everyone, including... Oh, well, wait a minute. Let's just go back to this. So this was from a few days ago. Erdogan threatens he'll open the doors for Syrian refugees to Europe if the EU deems Operation Op an occupation. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan pledged to open the doors for Syrian refugees to Europe if the EU decides to return to the Turkish military operation in northeast Europe as an occupation. So yeah, you'd have to conclude from that either the Europeans have suddenly, unexpectedly developed a spine overnight, or else they're really stupid and think that if they make threats like this one, that it's not going to have any consequences, and that they're just stupid, because I don't think that they have quite the same clout as the Americans. So yeah, so so Turkey is vowing retaliation for possible US economic sanctions. So Steve Mnuchin told reporters earlier on Friday that the Trump administration is considering enacting an order that would vastly expand Washington's ability to impose economic sanctions against Ankara and the ongoing military offensive in North Syria. So the Turkish Foreign Ministry have come back and said when Operation Peace Spring began, information was transmitted to the US government at all levels. The target and scope of the operation has been shared with the international public in full clarity. Turkey is fighting terrorist organizations posing a threat to national security, and this struggle will be continued with determination. No one should doubt that we will report in full against each step to the full extent of reciprocity. So that brings up actually something about American kind of two-facedness and hypocrisy, which I will share. It's only just come to mind, and that was what came out I think 2 days ago, that the wonderful Russian pranksters Vovan and I've forgotten his other name, managed to pull the wool over the eyes of all people, Lindsey Graham. So I'll just show one more headline, and this was from yesterday. So this is to illustrate what I was saying before. No mention of France that I can see. Turkey launches artillery bombardment on US special forces in Syria by mistake, just days after Trump controversially ordered American forces to withdraw. So, yeah, so that's that, and let's just now have a look at this other item. And then we have this from the Daily Mail. Remarkable video shows ISIS fighters strolling right up to Turkish border checkpoint for a relaxing chat with guards. Amateur footage shows militants casually wandering up to Turkish border, the pair displaying shocking bravado, waving at camera while carrying large guns. Greeted at border by Turkish security officials who break into the conversation. The group chat for a short time before fighters wander back towards Kobani. Militants heard chanting Allahu Akbar and making jihadist hand gestures. The video raises new questions over Turkish border guards' relationships with ISIS. So that's a little bit of truth for you from the British media. Something that the serious media won't tell you. Yeah, I just have to make an apology. 3/4, 9/10 of the way through this, and I realise that there's something with the sound. Since I had the geek in, the sound hasn't really worked, and I've got the input level on this microphone set at the very maximum, and we'll just see what that comes up with. Anyway, I just want to say that I'm not a great student of the Middle East, but I've been sort of following things for about 8 years, and then before that I knew a bit because I read Robert Fisk's work, his articles and his books on this, and I've just realized the complexity and the degree to which previous decisions that go back hundreds of years, that's the divvying up of whole countries between the imperial powers of the time, especially France and Britain, have given rise to this problem. So now that you've got Kurds in one, two, three, four countries, they're repressed to varying degrees in all of them, but there's no real solution unless you completely redraw the map of the Middle East, which is what the Americans are attempting, not for any good reasons, but for reasons of resources and and whatever their own reasons. So I just want to offer you I found something going back to last year, and it looked as though Trump was going to withdraw his troops, but obviously didn't, and this gave rise to problems back then. But just have a look at how, I'm not going to post the whole thing, how CNN were talking about things then. And then I've got something I didn't realize until afterwards, that it was from a Maoist source, so they use words like imperialist, like there's no tomorrow, but nevertheless, despite their ideological bent, they do have something truthful to say about this, and we all need reminding. To show how convoluted this is, I just discovered this. This was from December last year on CNN, and look what the narrative was then. Kurds turned to Syria's Assad following Trump's troop withdrawal order. Well, of course they didn't. And so we've got the situation today, I guess. Anyway, I'm not going to play the whole of this. I'll just play the introduction.
Okay, this is an incredibly complicated story. Elise, I know you can kind of boil it down to why it matters, what is happening, potentially happening with the Kurds in Syria.
Well, this is exactly what everyone feared, a free-for-all in what was, one of the most stable parts in Syria because of the, cooperation between U.S. Forces and the Syrian Kurds. Particularly the YPG, and the U.S. had been supporting these Kurds to fight ISIS. Now that President Trump has announced that he's withdrawing, there was a lot of concern that he was abandoning the Kurds, which have really been a stable partner. And now it's a free-for-all where the Kurds have cut a deal with Assad. It's pretty clear they've been kind of flirting with him for a while, but now they've cut a deal for Assad to come back into the area. And that leaves the Kurds free to go after their real nemesis, which is Turkey. They're looking for a separatist area between Syria and Turkey. And now this really leaves Turkey pretty vulnerable. So
the Kurds have found themselves in a very difficult situation inside of Iraq. After having carried out the imperialist aims of the United States, now that U.S. forces are planning to pull out, a representative from the Assad government says that they are not willing to give autonomy to any kind of Kurdish region inside the country. Just recently, the Kurdish-led authority that occupies much of the north and east of Syria presented a post-war roadmap for a peace deal with Assad in recent meetings with Russia. The Kurds want an autonomous region inside of a decentralized state when U.S. troops currently backing them officially pulls out. However, the suggestion was completely rejected by Buthania Shaban, who is an advisor to the Assad government. She said that any attempt to create a Kurdish state would be the partitioning of Syria. She added that Syria is a country that is a melting pot of all people, and all people are equal in front of Syrian law and in front of the Syrian constitution. The advisor also called the Kurds a precious and very important part of the Syrian people. When the U.S. entered Syria, backing many terrorist groups inside the country, their goal had been to overthrow the Assad government. Now, once it became clear that this plan was going to fail, they began backing the Kurds as well, attempting to balkanize the country by trying to force a Kurdish state inside of the country, particularly in the oil-rich regions. Now that the United States is pulling out, the Syrian government doesn't feel that it's necessary to create an autonomous Kurdish region, given the history of the Kurds allying with the United States, who was attempting to destroy the country to begin with. It seems many of the plans of the Kurdish people, including creating a U.S. Air Force base on Syrian land, is now a tactic that is coming back to haunt them, and one that will certainly very much interfere with their plans about creating a future state for themselves. Jason Unruh, MRN, Niagara Falls.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please